At some point or another, I'm sure you've heard of World of Warcraft. Whether you played the game, you saw it in an episode of South Park, or you just socially related to 30-year-old men still living in their mother's basements, it has probably come across you at some point or another. Essentially, for those of you who don't know, it's a giant video game world where you create a character, level that character up, and meet complete strangers all across the game's world while playing. The game is divided into a handful of different realms, each realm containing its own copy of Azeroth with its own world of players. The term used for this type of game is MMORPG, or Massively Multiplayer Online Role-Playing Game, and World of Warcraft is the most successful game of all time in that genre. The game has been out for 15 years now, and it has experienced 7 expansions in that time. Personally, I haven't played the game in at least 6 or 7 years, but the announcement of World of Warcraft Classic, basically a re-release of the game in its original form, got me really excited. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. The world of Azeroth had so many beautiful regions and different types of characters, and you would run into all of these strangers online that you ended up forming virtual friendships with to help you on your ultimate quest of eventually losing your virginity. Just kidding. Questing was time consuming and leveling was a long and rewarding process. The game also has a ton of elaborately crafted dungeons, each one being completely unique and filled with all sorts of interesting bosses. In the early days of World of Warcraft, you had to meet up with people inside your own realm by joining a guild, which is a large group of people that all play the game in the same realm, or asking to group up in the general chat. This wasn't an easy process, and when you finally formed a group ready to take on one of these dungeons, it became a sort of commitment to one another to finish the dungeon. This led to a joint experience between a group of people, compelling them to become friends and complete dungeons with each other in the future. It brought a wonderful sense of community to the game, which led to tightly knit guilds, group questing, raids with your friends, and so much more. Now, everything that made World of Warcraft so immersive and unique was killed with one singular feature: the Dungeon Finder. So instead of painstakingly forming your team by wandering around shouting for help, Blizzard thought that it would make the game 100 times more convenient by adding the Dungeon Finder. What's the Dungeon Finder? Essentially, it's like multiplayer on any other console or online video game. Instead of forming a group of your own, you're immediately matched up with players from all of the other realms that are trying to do the same dungeon as you. Now, this probably sounds like a necessary convenience, right? Something that makes the game more accessible and therefore more enjoyable, right? Wrong. What the Dungeon Finder did accomplish was it killed World of Warcraft's sense of community while simultaneously turning 90% of the game into a wasteland. How? I'll tell you how. The importance of a guild quickly diminished as you no longer needed to form friendships in order to secure group members. You can just find them by using the online Dungeon Finder. Most guilds, with a few exceptions I'm sure, became super uninvolved and overly casual. Basically just another general chat with people that barely know each other. The thousands of quests, interesting NPCs, beautiful landscapes, and terrifying beasts essentially became a wasteland, as all you had to do in order to get experience and gear was search for dungeons. It was so much easier than questing or exploring, so why bother wandering out into any of these areas when you can just sit in the city and search for dungeons all day? The Dungeon Finder made the game far too easy and murdered the game's sense of community, which is why myself as well as thousands of others stopped playing the game.
Bye, Felicia.
So when World of Warcraft Classic is released, I'm sure that many of the players that left will return, hoping to find the same communal experience that World of Warcraft gave us in the early days. And that's all I got. Click here to check out another video, click here to subscribe, click here to stop the sound of my voice, just click here. Oh, and thanks for watching.